Astrology time. Shane here, dailyastrocat.com. Today is Saturday, the 13th of June. So here's a day we've kind of been waiting for, right? The moon is void of course in Taurus at 3:30 in the morning, and it will enter Gemini at 9:06. This is the deadline that I gave you, right? Now, is it a hard deadline? We're going to find out, right? This is our last chance to wrap it all up, though. And this is where things begin to get really interesting. So how interesting? Well, when Mercury goes retrograde on the 29th, it's going to back up to 16 degrees, 18 minutes of Cancer. That occurred yesterday. So we're in that period, right? The shadow zone, if you'd want to call it that. This is where Mercury is going to back up to. Now, from this point until the actual retrograde, we're going to get an opportunity to review and revise what we're talking about and what we're thinking about and what we're doing from today, or, maybe early, the middle of yesterday, on up until Mercury goes retrograde, and then when Mercury goes direct. Okay, so that's going to be very interesting. So that gives us a chance to, those retrogrades, you use those rewords all the time, right? You rework, you re-edit, you revise, you review. Rewords for the retrograde, particularly Mercury retrograde. So that's going to be really interesting. So that's cool. And Mercury stations retrograde on the 29th. So we've got it coming up. And it's going to do so at 26 degrees, 15 minutes of Cancer. So it's going to back up to 16 degrees. So it's going to go 10 whole degrees back. And then, like I've been saying, Mercury will not leave Cancer until the 9th of August. So we've got an entire first half of our summer with this Cancerian Mercury thing going on, right? Nostalgic. Safety, nostalgia, all that stuff, right? Those great summer songs. That's what we got to look forward to. So now, things are being considered from a nostalgic place. Just told you that. And we have a brief shot today at getting some new material into the pipeline, and it's going to blast for a couple of days. So we've got a couple of days to get this done, right? It almost always now with Mercury in Cancer, this is going to almost always favor the old projects, especially with us entering into that shadow period where it's going to cover back over, right? And we're going to have a chance to really rework this and refine this and get this offering to be the best that it possibly can be. So we're kind of still working on the old stuff, but we're going to inject a couple new ideas into it very quickly, and those will fold right into what we're doing. So that's kind of cool, right? Now, think about this. It almost always favors our old projects. Now, speaking of old projects, did you see the residual effect of the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the news yesterday? It was big. It was big, and it made somebody a lot of money. Now, scale that level of success down and see what you can make work for you, starting today. And today's keyword is aware. You just have to be aware that that's a possibility, and that can be something that we're working towards. Also, we need to be aware of how this retrograde is going to work. That's why I gave you those dates so far in advance. So now, the color is the grass on the National Mall. Okay, so down in Washington, D.C., right? Now, we can unleash the power of the Gemini season. Now we can. Oh, yes. The spectacle, it is what it is, all right? Protests, they're going to be loud. And the counter-protests, loud too, equally loud. So Mercury in Cancer has us questioning this reality, though. I've seen it done so many times, right? It's just, what? Okay. Communication is halting. It's spotty. If you aren't on the same frequency, it's going to feel impossible. So we're really having some communication issues here. There's a little bit of static in the air, right? It might be the heat, it might be anything, right? So, look, Venus enters Leo today. So this is going to be a totally different vibe, right? Because Venus is now our lead planet. So we're leading with our attraction. We're leading with our, almost the sultry voice. Follow the sounds of my sultry voice. Yes, something like that. Look, our ability to command attention, okay, has never been better. And we got to stand up and be recognized, for better or worse. It's just what's going to happen with Venus and Leo, right? Leo is that dramatic, the flair, right? The flair for drama. Venus is creative, she's loving, and she's also balancing and doing all sorts of nice things for us, right? That quality of life. We want to live that life, and life gets lived large in Leo, especially with Jupiter and Venus still being relatively conjunct. So, they're still under the influence of each other, and we're going to have Venus reaching out to, the planets that are in the Aries, right? So we're going to be passing over Neptune, right? And Venus will be trine with Neptune, so that's going to be very much a creative boon as well. So let's use the creativity. Let's try to do away with the being drawn into excess, okay? Because that's happening. Venus wants to indulge, right? We got to have a little bit of discipline because Saturn's there too, okay? We just can't indulge Venus and just let her be deluded into thinking that everything's going to be okay. We have to reel it in, produce, and make sure that we're doing the things to make it okay. Now, there are only a few days left of the Gemini season. So look at, we want to make sure. Some folks will be putting this to the test today, okay? Just the whole Venus and Leo thing. Rising stars, if you want to call them that, right? Keep an eye out for them. Now, there's only a few days left of the Gemini season, and so we're going to have to make the most of this weekend from a creative standpoint, right? Now, Jupiter moves close to a trine with Neptune. Okay, this amplifies creativity as well. So we just told you about the Venus coming into it. Venus will be triggering it first, but then Jupiter will follow right after the retrograde, actually. Jupiter's not moving as fast as Venus. So right after the retrograde, we will see some of this effect too. And then we will have Neptune going retrograde pretty soon after that, too. I'm not going to look that date up, but I'll let you know. And it's not going to be that big a deal because basically when Neptune goes retrograde, it kind of makes things, in my mind, a little clearer. It's reversed, right? The veil gets pulled back. The mists, they subside a little bit, so we're able to see what our intentions are and where we've been perhaps misleading ourselves. So we have to be careful of that. Now, think about this. Once the energy is definitely shifting, okay? And the moon conjunct Uranus, the moon will be conjunct Uranus later on today. And that is going to be, the results of what we're expecting is going to be different than what we anticipate because that's just the way Uranus works, right? That's the nature of Uranus. It won't be bad, or will it? But it will definitely be surprising. So now, if we weren't already shocked, our last aspect today is the moon trine retrograde Pluto. Multiple exclamation points would be appropriate here. Change is what we want, and change is what is promised. It's what is inevitable, right? Look for some early signs today and tomorrow. The new moon approaches this, and this occurs at lunar perigee. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, technically, that's a supermoon. So you can expect, normally usually the new moon brings you a high tide. It's going to be higher because the moon's closer, right? So it's going to be a higher than normal tide. And as a result, with that additional gravity from the moon being closest to us on that, during that dark phase, we're going to see some dark and crazy behavior. Almost like a full moon, but it's a new moon. All right, so let's talk about this. In 1866, the U.S. House of Representatives, you remember those guys? Yeah, they passed the 14th Amendment, which is basically the Civil Rights Bill. All right, and they did that in 1866. And our birth, get this, the Olsen twins, Ashley and Mary Kate, turned 40 today. They're born this date in Sherman Oaks, California. And that is all I have for you. Perspective. Now, Let's talk about this. The key word is aware. I want you to be aware of these dates and the retrogrades and the things that are coming up because they're going to be important. And be aware of your own creativity and your ability to communicate it and put it out there. And the color is the grass on the National Mall. Right? So, if you know, then now you know, right? Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Today's a 7. Happy astrocatting.